No, Francisco, the floor is yours.
Oh, we got the buttons right. It's kind of a miracle some days that, we've all figured out Zoom, like we've got it here. So thanks for having me, Sarah. Um, I'm a little bit intrigued now. I have to go back to Ray and see how he built this up so much that he actually got you excited. I'm a little worried that I'm going to under deliver, but let me try not to. Here's one thing I can guarantee everybody that's coming for today. You at least get an hour with a lawyer and you're not going to get a bill. Might be the first time ever. So, at least you'll get that. Ha ha ha. The topic really that
Awesome.
Yeah, right. Awesome. So we put this topic together last year and we've been delivering this talk and it's been changing, of course, because nothing's the same as it was even a month ago. And it really, there's just so many of us that are professionals, right? That are trying to dig into taking care of our clients, taking care of whatever business it is that we're in, or maybe, like early in the summer, we did a training for employees, people who don't have their own business on, helping set themselves up for the best opportunity to be able to find that next new job or keep the job that they're in right now. We all are called during times like this, exactly like this, is when good people have to persist and be great people. We've got to be the great professionals that I know are inside all of us, that I know are inside of all of you. You wouldn't be here if you weren't one of the greats. And so this talk really just morphed into something that I first delivered to my attorney colleagues because attorneys were just losing heart. It morphed for them, it went to the employees, people who are just working for businesses. And now, this is something that I think a lot of us people who are really concerned about where things are going, we just need to have a moment to catch our breath and say, we've got it. We've got this, we can do this. And so that's where pandemic politics and polemics all came out of this, right? I don't need to remind any of us of the chaos of last year, but I'm going to take a minute and do it because I truly believe, like in my own practice, if I don't pause for a second with my clients and just acknowledge that they've been through something really hard, then it can feel like that didn't mean anything. And I want every single one here, every single one of you, take a deep breath. We've been through something that is going to be a before COVID and after COVID thing in history, like 9/11. It's not the same, but like any of the great wars, like any of the massive economic things that have happened, there's a before and there's an after. COVID-19 came out last year. One of the longest standing justices of the Supreme Court passed away. The whole George Floyd civil rights situation has erupted. One of our favorite basketball players, dying in a helicopter crash. California up in flames. What the heck? It's still burning. And then a historic election won with President Biden. And if you would have just sat there on January, in the beginning of January, and just took stock of what happened in the year before, I don't know about you, but I literally sat there thinking there are so many things that have happened that I would have never been able to picture. Am I in the Twilight Zone? I don't know if any of you felt like you've been in the Twilight Zone. I have absolutely felt like I've been in the Twilight Zone. We have 4 little kids. And I work all day, right? I'm a lawyer, but I've got my family, I've got my clients, I've got my team members that I'm worried about. And I'm like, who am I in the world anymore, right? My kids aren't in school last year. And so we're trying to figure out homeschooling. My team members are now all of a sudden working from home. So many things are changing so quickly. It's you guys. And I realized it was me, my own self, even though I didn't sign up for the job, that was called to be the best person I can be because I have to lead those in my life, right? I have to lead my own family. I have to lead my team, I have to lead my clients. None of that is possible unless I'm willing to stand up and lead myself. And so I hope at the end of this quick little, I don't know what we'll have, 30, 45 minutes together. I hope you finish this up, whether you're a real estate agent, you're a title officer, you're somebody who's working in a job, or you're just a retiree. I hope you walk out of this and you say, you know what? I've got this. Whatever that next challenge is, I hope you know that you've got it, that you can handle it. Just real quick, I think part of the reason that Sarah invited me here, other than Ray, my team member Ray, other than his, a glowing, recommendation to get me here, is because I'm as the founder of a law firm. We're in Chandler, Keystone Law Firm. We have grown and grown and grown and grown and grown, and we've been super, helpful for our clients. We've seen so many of our clients be successful. And then even during 2020, we were able to look back at it and say it was our best year ever. And something in that mix of the flavor that I bring to Keystone is, Sarah wants me to bring a little bit of that to you. Even during a pandemic, businesses can shift, jobs can shift, people can shift and make a change for the better. And we've struggled to figure out how to do that at Keystone. I launched the radio show right in the middle of the pandemic. There's me yelling at my microphone because I was so upset about something that day. I don't remember what it was. And we grew, we were able to help more families. We're able to reach out further into the community, and new ways have been developed to do that. This is one of them, right? These kinds of Zoom meetings weren't as practical as before, but now you get to jump on a call and attend. So what is all of this for? It's to remind you, it's really to remind me and to remind all of us that despite this pandemic, despite the politics, and despite the polemics, we have to go after our dreams. Our dreams are our own responsibility. So we're going to spend a minute looking. I want you to look at your own dreams for just a minute, because there's something you want to accomplish that you haven't yet put it all in. You haven't put all in to get it done, and you can do it. I'm not insulated from the world, the crazy world that goes around us. Just last night, we were on a Zoom call with the school board, and theatrics and drama abound, right? It was a very frustrating and entertaining Zoom call in a lot of respects. None of us are insulated from in some cases, insanity that's around us and in our lives. If you're in the real estate industry, facing the insane amount of changes that are being thrown at you on a daily, weekly basis, and having to switch things up to get it done, you are to be absolutely commended. This market, this time period, it will remove anybody who doesn't have the stomach for it from the business. It absolutely will. People who don't have the stomach for it and who aren't the strong leaders, they're gone. And it's going to be left to you, the best of us, to keep going forward. So what are your dreams? Whether it's in business, whether it's professionally, whether it's personally, what's that thing you haven't yet accomplished that you should, you could, and you want to, but you feel like the insanity in the world is holding you back? Put that in your mind. Think about that for a second, because this is the time to say this was your turning point. Okay. If you look back at 2020, you could look here now at August 2021 and say, yes, we are still in the pandemic. Okay, but you could decide for yourself, this is the turning point. This is my turning point. I'm putting a stake in the ground right here, because no matter what, that all of those things have happened, here it is. This is my turning point. And then this could be your before and after moment. Okay. What's coming with the pandemic? None of us have a crystal ball. What I would put in front of you as far as how you communicate to your clients, your customers, if you're in business, is absolutely to tell them none of us have certainty about it, but there's one thing I can give you certainty about, and it's this issue. Whatever it is you're dealing with, right? It's the house they want to buy. It's the transaction they need to close on. It's the house they want to sell, piece of property, whatever it is. You can give them certainty about that, right? And you can give them absolute certainty about what their true goals are with respect to that transaction, and refocus them so that it's not clouded by the insanity that's out there. What legislation is coming up with respect to the pandemic? Holy crap, if only I knew. I know one of the big ones is this whole infrastructure bill. We're all going to end up having to parse through our different industry pieces of that and figure out how that it affects us. I believe it is going to create a lot of opportunity. I believe it's going to create a lot of opportunity, whether you agree with it or not. Some version is going to pass, and there's going to be opportunity in there to help people either understand it or implement some of the opportunities that are built into it. And so you are called to be that advisor, that person who steps up into it. We see a lot of issues coming up from the pandemic and consistently coming up with related to your health and the health of your clients and your family members. Obviously, COVID itself is the disease, but plenty of other things are now receiving less proactive treatment because of the hospitals and the medical facilities who for a long period of time stopped having elective treatments. So there's a whole bunch of people who are now less healthy because they weren't able to be proactive about things. So we do see a lot more people whose health is declining. And for those who deal with the elderly, or you're helping somebody who's in that sandwich generation, and because they're taking care of an elderly family member, you've got to make sure your ducks are in a row so that they can legally help them. The pandemic, from a professional perspective, as an attorney, as the founder of Keystone, we have decided as a business that it is not going to slow us down. We made that decision when this all happened last year, March 13th. We made the decision. We pulled the whole team in and we had a conversation. We said, there's a lot unknown here. We don't know the answers, but I do know one thing. I know that no matter what happens in the world, people are going to need help. People are going to need good, honest people with high integrity and good skills to help them. People are going to be confused. And it's in these times that people like us, people like you, really need to step up and make sure that we are sharing that message. So from the pandemic side, this thing continuing on, I would recommend that you see this as a deeper need for your help, because the fear is just being dragged out. It's being elongated. I don't know what the right word is. It's going on forever and ever. I was telling somebody this morning that I just have this feeling, no crystal ball. I have this feeling that the pandemic is going to be our main focus in media and in conversations at school boards for the next couple years. I just have this feeling, the way it's being characterized. And if we're in a leadership role, and all of you are, if you're here, you're connected to Sarah, you're in a leadership role, either advising clients or leading your family, then you've got to be the ones to say, this is what we're doing going through this. And that's what we're called to do in the pandemic. When it comes to politics, this is where it gets messy, right? None of us want to get into it with regard to each other on the political spectrum. So what really is politics here? The politics of this is in my opinion, it's the insanity of how quickly all the politicians are making changes to our laws, right? You guys are experiencing that just as much as us. Probably, I'm sorry, more than us. So I primarily practice in estates and probates. So those laws aren't changing as frequently and as much as the housing, the real estate. I mean, I have a couple colleagues that do evictions, and they're like, can I go? Can I not go? Right? I mean, it's just crazy. But even on closing transactions and stuff, it's very difficult. The big things that you need to know about from my industry that are coming from the politicians is a enormous, and I don't know any other way to say it. It's gargantuan. It's gigantic. It's one of the biggest tax law changes in my 15-year history, and probably all the way back to the 1986 massive revision of the tax code. Massive, massive, massive tax changes are coming. And we have a proposal from Congress, we have a proposal from the House, and we have a proposal from the White House. The three proposals from those three different elements of the federal government are all consistent on a number of different changes. And I certainly can't expect to go through all of them with you right here. I want to give you a couple big ones that affect things you do a lot and things that I do a lot. First one is the capital gains tax. Capital gains tax has two big proposed changes. The first one is the proposal to tax capital gains along with ordinary income at the same rates. Huge change to capital gains taxes, okay? If that happens, there's going to be pandemonium, and then the tax lawyers are going to come up with a bunch of strategies to avoid it. So we'll see. But that's a big one for capital gains. The second one is not necessarily switching the capital gains tax rate, but eliminating the step up in basis at death. So I know if you're buying and selling real estate, you're not necessarily talking to clients about holding their property until death, but you may have a conversation with someone that goes like this. Yeah, I'd sell my property, but you know what? I'm going to pay a bunch of capital gains. And so I've been told, if I just own it until my death, I get a free step up and then my kids can sell it. So what that means is, yeah, under current law today, if, I have one client, she bought a piece of property for $30,000 downtown Phoenix. It's now worth like $600,000. Woohoo, right? Great profit. That's a lot of capital gains built in. If she sells it now, she's got $570,000 of gains that will be taxed. But if she dies and her kids sell it, they pay zero capital gains tax. So that's the current law. It's a great tax strategy. You have to die, right? That's not the strategy, is to recommend that, but that's what happens under current law. The proposals will eliminate that. So kids sell it, they'll pay the same capital gains tax that she would have if she sold it during life. I think what this one will cause, if this one is passed, is it's going to cause a lot of people to sell who otherwise wouldn't. Because why not, right? What's the difference? I sell it, I wait till I die, or I sell it now. The tax is going to get paid. So that may cause more transactions to be to go ahead. So watch out for that one, that capital gains tax at death. The other tax change that's coming, and I believe this one's in all three proposals, so I don't think there's any way it's not changing, is the estate tax. Right now, the estate tax is very generous and very few families pay estate tax, very few individuals. The way it works is when somebody dies, if they die right now under current tax law, $11.7 million can be passed to their beneficiaries and they pay zero estate tax. Nothing, no estate tax. Now they might still pay income tax if there's like an IRA or 401k in there, but no estate tax. The proposals say, no, you don't get to pass on 11.7 million. You only get to pass on 3.5 million. That's a very different number. That's going to affect a whole lot more of our clients. We have a lot of real estate clients who have, 5, 10, 20, 30 pieces of property, and they're well over that limit, especially with real estate values, what they are.
What was the limit again, Francisco? You said 3 what?
3.5.
3.5. Thank you.
3.5 million. So that proposal, if it brings it down to 3.5 million, that's essentially a $8 million loss on that exemption amount. You know what the tax is going to be on that $8 million? At least 40%. So the way it works is if they set it at 3.5 million, every single dollar on top of that is taxed 40% at death. And so if that 3.5 includes IRAs, those will also pay an income tax whenever they're distributed. So say that's a 30% approximate tax bill. You literally could have a $3.5 million estate that pays crazy taxes. So I believe that's going to pass. All of us in my industry really do believe that piece of it's going to pass because it's agreed upon on the 3 different drafts. And so if that does pass, there's going to be a lot of planning, and thankfully the planning and the strategies to avoid the tax on top of that 3.5 million already exist. We already know those strategies. They're already time tested and approved. They're not complicated. It's just pull the trigger and do it. And we, where was I going? I forgot where I was going on that comment, but so that 3.5 million is one of the other proposed changes. Inside of the proposed tax bills, that 3.5 million, it is per person. If you're a married couple, you each do get 3.5 million, or currently you each get 11.7 million. So it's a really generous amount right now. A lot of people are going to fit within that if it gets passed to 3.5 million, but it is 3.5 per person. And so those are the tax law changes. The infrastructure bills, I don't see that anybody has proposed to merge the tax bill into the infrastructure bills. So I don't think that's going to be something that sneaks in. I think so far it's in a complete standalone thing that will happen. There's 2 questions. Let me make sure. Is that an owner occupied properties for the capital gains? No, it's a different tax exemption. The one that is for owner occupied properties, they're not proposing to eliminate that one. So that's the one where you can, if you sell it, if you live there 2 years and sell it within 5 years of when you lived there 2 years, then you don't have to pay gain on the first $250,000 of profit. If you're married, it's $500,000. I haven't seen a proposal that eliminates that yet. So that's if you are alive and you're owner occupied and you sell, and you can do that every 2 years. The one I was talking about is the capital gains tax at death. Will Roth IRAs be taxed again? Roth IRAs could be taxed at the estate tax, but they do not get taxed again on the income tax. Okay, so those 2 different taxes are they're independent of each other. You don't get a credit against one for paying the other. So if somebody had a $10 million IRA, the first 3.5 million would pay 0 estate tax, but all of it would pay income tax, even that first 3.5 million. Okay, switching into the last concept here, the polemics. This is the piece of it that I think for me, a lawyer, I take a lot of pride in the fact that I am not the kind of a lawyer who enjoys saying things just to piss off the opposing counsel, or just to mudsling against the other party to make them look bad in front of the judge. I am not that kind of attorney. I'm not that kind of a person. And I take that into my practice with my staff, my team members, my clients, where we deal with things head on. We deal with them, as they are. What are the facts here? What is the truth about this situation? And we don't need to go bananas about it. It just is what it is. What do we know? And what are we going to do next? What I have observed is that so much of our media is trying to get us riled up, and we absolutely should be riled up and active on the things and the causes that are important to us. But the media, their job is to sell us into our eyeballs, into our attention. And so that incentive that they have is one we have to decide to consume through a filter. That is just how I believe we should approach this whole time period, and even in the years to come. About 6 or 7 years ago, I cut out all news media in my life, right? 100%, absolute zero. I gather my information from information sources. I do not consume it from the media because it's just intended to agitate me. I want to believe what I read, what I learn about from intentional sources, and I want to get agitated about the things that I'm passionate about, not from what the media thinks is important. And I think this last concept here, this last topic is I would give you the freedom to make the same choice in your life. Nobody thinks I'm cool because of it, though. Too bad for them. My life is better off, and I've been able to make the decisions I want to make and live the life I want to live, partially because I've completely cut that out. So when you're looking at what are you going to do, what's your goal, right? What's that goal you know you can accomplish, you know you wanted to accomplish, that you didn't. You felt like the pandemic put it off or put it on pause. What is that goal? Just have to ask yourself, what do I need to cut out of my life so that I can accomplish that goal? Generally speaking, it's something in our life that we're holding on to that we need to let go. And that's where this conversation of having a productive discussion about things is where it's going to be key to getting you closer to your goal. Now, before I switch into my last thing that I want to offer you guys, where I see the pandemic going, just, take it or leave it. This is just one guy's opinion who I claim no exceptional expertise over anybody else out there. So this is my opinion. Where I see us going is I see it going back to normal, right? People are calling it the new normal. I see life going back to normal, but I see it being a cause that our society wants to use to divide us, right? To divide us. And I personally have seen that in my own life. We see it. We've seen it forever in politics. That's the game of politics. But I see this pandemic being used as a way to put people in categories. And I truly believe that our job as leaders in our jobs, in our families, in our industries, is to say, I opt out of your classifications. I'm not either one of those, and neither are my team members, the people in my life, my clients. I don't require those labels to be put on people. We're all in this literally together, whether we're on one side of an issue or the other. And that's how I would approach it, is that we need to be the kind of people who do rise above these artificial labels that have been created and given to the masses and consumed very readily. We rise above that and we say, very good. If you need that, that's okay for you. We can just move forward under the operations that we need to do. What do we know best? What do we know? And what's the next best step? In all of my discussions here with Sarah, and anytime she's invited me to speak, I'm 100% grateful for your guys' attention, your attention to this, the questions that you've asked. If you have more questions, we're happy to open up, and you can even ask them on the Zoom call itself. So, get ready to ask those questions. I do want to give you guys this. This is our little packet that we give a lot of our clients. It's 3 tools just from an estate planning perspective. All the way on the right is our brochure on the difference between a will and a trust. I hate wills, not because they make things simpler or more complicated than trust, but simply because the court system itself uses the will to drive a wedge between the beneficiaries. And even if the kids all are great together, it literally drives a wedge. And so we're just a big fan. But anyway, that's a good brochure on that. In the middle is a family affairs checkup on 3 different aspects of life. Good thing to go through. And I say go through it once a year, just a quick check off, yes, no. And then my flow chart that is just completely homespun Beautiful artwork, isn't it? Just the graphics are amazing. This is a typical sort of flow chart of how a trust operates in the different phases of life that it goes through for a married couple. For a single person, it would just skip that first step, obviously. But you guys are welcome to have that. I can share it with Sarah directly. You're welcome to text into our system and my staff will email it to you and you'll have that. That's just a quick little thank you for coming today. Obviously, if you need more private questions answered, you're welcome to just arrange that directly with my office. But Sarah, that is what I had for today. I'm happy to open us up for questions and anything else you guys want me to cover.
I'm thinking, I've taken all these notes and just thinking about all the different things that you kind of covered. I would say, and just kind of in what you're seeing, because I know there's these proposals and going back to kind of like the tax stuff.
Yeah.
So I know with the infrastructure bill and things, and then there's like a follow-up social infrastructure bill behind it that's like 3.5 trillion. It's a big number. So what you're saying is, are all of these changes in the infrastructure bill, or are they separate proposals for changes to tax law?
They're separate proposals.
Except for the last one that you said you're like, it's going to happen because that's in the infrastructure bill.
So it's yeah, there's kind of three big ones right now. There's the infrastructure, the social infrastructure, and then the tax proposal.
Okay, I see.
Three separate and independent. Now, usually those kinds of infrastructure bills, they will wrap up a lot of that inside of tax incentives, but they are three independent ones as of now. Question in the chat. Can you please repeat the proposal on the capital gain issue? Yeah, you bet. The capital gain issue, there are two proposed changes. Okay, two separate independent proposed changes. The first one is to change the tax rate. Okay, so right now you sell something that's a capital gain and you have profit. That profit gets taxed at at lower capital gains tax rates. Okay. The proposal is going to tax that profit at your ordinary income rate, like your wages, like your 1099 income. So that's the first proposal on capital gains. The second one is how capital gains get taxed at death. So right now there's a free step up in basis to the value of your property at the date of your death, and your heirs can sell the property at that value, and that's their new basis, meaning they pay zero capital gains if it's sold for that amount. If it's sold for more than that, say it was worth $500,000 on the date of death, and they sold it for $550 or $600, that $50,000 or $100,000 increase since the date of death will be taxed at capital gains rates, but it does get a reset to the date of to the value as of the date of death. Okay, I hope, Diane, that answered your question on the capital gains issue. But yeah, the infrastructure, the social infrastructure, and the tax proposals are three separate and independent tax proposals. Yeah, or not, I'm sorry, not three separate tax proposals, three separate bills at the federal level. Just an insane amount of changes that are happening. Yes, Diane. So on the capital gains rates, there will be no long-term or short-term rates. That's correct. It'll just be based on income. Absolutely. Mark, I have heard the rate could be 50% on gain versus the current 20%. So if you stack up all of the taxes on a tax return that could be paid, yeah, potentially it could get close to that number, as insanely as that sounds. So this is where tax planning is going to become more and more valuable as these capital gains rates are adjusted. Because the top end rate, which you guys will be at the forefront of helping clients see this as an issue, not everybody, most people don't have over $1 million annual income. But if this law changes, then, and somebody sells a couple pieces of property in a year, the proceeds from those property sales, right, could put their income that year over $1 million. And if it does, they get bumped into the highest tax rates. And under the new proposal, you add all of those up plus their state income tax, and yes, they could be pushing 50% tax on that capital gains. Jeff asked, will the proposed step up value elimination also apply to a spouse who becomes owner of a property as a result of the spousal death? Yeah, it right now, that seems like it will apply, that there will be, the way it's written right now is that there will be a deemed sale at death. And I haven't yet seen that they've written in any exemptions for a surviving spouse. So there could be a deemed sale at death is how they're characterizing it. And in that case, it's going to be taxed at the death of the first spouse, if that's what gets passed. Good questions. Anybody?
So can I hop in on, and this could be, and I'm of course coming from title company asking, but it's, so when it's the first, just so I get this in what you just said. So when it's the first spousal death, but if they have title, like if they take title as, you know, married, you know, community property rights of survivorship, they're not going to have to deal with any of those taxes until they go to sell?
We don't, no. That is not what I'm currently seeing. No, what we're seeing is that the death, even with a right of survivorship, that the death is a deemed sale. So anyway. Again, we're tracking this, and I would imagine this is one of those pieces that needs to, even as bad as it would be to have to lose the step up in basis, it would be really painful for a surviving spouse to have a deemed sale while they're still living in the house. It's a little bit less painful and a little more politically acceptable to have a deemed sale when the kids inherit the house, right? Too bad for them, kind of a thing. But the surviving spouse, that's pretty harsh. So, you know, I would see that as one being added into there, but I don't currently see that one in the proposals. Yeah. Yeah, Diane, sucks for, yes, it does. It totally does. A lot of these tax changes, my mind is boggled on them. So, but yes, if you guys want to grab, get that, my staff will send it to you. Just email or just send a text message to that 480-418-3862. Say, hey, you know, saw Francisco on the lawyer's title thing. Here's my email. They'll shoot it right back to you. And just good stuff to review.
I'll make sure to share it as well too, along with the link that we have for the recording.
Awesome. Good deal, Sarah. Anybody else? You've got me for another 5 or so minutes. If not, you guys can follow up with Sarah, and you're welcome to check out our firm, of course, KeystoneLawFirm.com. We have a ton of free good stuff on our website. Feel free to consume that. Anytime I get a question from somebody, I generally do a YouTube video and answer it for everybody. So there's a lot on our YouTube channel as well.
That's awesome. That's great. And you can share it. It's great for marketing.
Yep. You know, I mean, I just like you do, Sarah, you know, the stuff that I've learned over the years, I don't consider them to be big secrets, but for some reason they seem to be big secrets. And so the more I can just push the information out, the better. Like the better we all are.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know we're getting so many questions that are coming out with all the changes, and just having a place to go and say, hey, this could answer a lot of your questions, just looking at the YouTube channel. So yeah, thank you.
Bingo. You bet. My pleasure, guys. And you're welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming, everybody. And thank you for having me, Sarah. Look forward to the recording.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, we appreciate your time, and other questions that come up, let us know, and I'll send out some more information that Francisco covered. So thank you again for being here.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.